in the social mission. One of my first pastors, Dan Cantwell, was a seminarian under Riley Hillenbrand and did so much to bring about interracial justice in the Archdiocese of Chicago. You know, Tucson is an interesting place. Most of our rivers are dry. We rarely get any rain. But I remember one time driving on I-19. Anybody ever been on I-19? It's the only highway in the US that's measured in kilometers. And I was driving along on my way to Nogales, which is at the border, and I was enveloped by one of our incredible monsoons. Rain coming down in droves, my poor windshield wipers hardly able to catch up. And all of a sudden, I drew out of that storm. And there on my left were two magnificent rainbows. From one end of the horizon all the way to the other. You could almost see the pot of gold sitting right there. You know, as I look around this room, you guys, all of you, are the rainbows of life, the rainbows in the church. Because you are upholding one of the richest traditions of the church, which is to work for the dignity of every human person. You are what gives me hope, and I'm sure many others. Steve here was saying he has been teaching Catholic social teaching in a Catholic high school for 40 years. That's incredible, Steve. And John just retired, tells me that he wants to do something now to engage a world in desperate need. And Mike and Betty, who are new to Global Fellows, now wanting to continue their service. He entered the diaconate to serve, and also our Global Fellows to serve. So there are present in this room an incredible number of people. So where did it happen for you? When did you become aware? When were your eyes open and you began to see? She dressed plainly, although her appearance was striking, with her braided hair and her face set off by the long line of her jaw and her slanting eyes. Dorothy May Day, you all heard of her. She says, I know exactly where it happened for me. I was down by the pier one day, and there I saw a man sitting all by himself. And in front of him was a wooden crate. And on that crate he had placed his newspaper. And on that newspaper he placed his meager supper. And there he sat all by himself with some semblance of dignity. And she said it was the saddest thing I ever saw. And I determined, she said, that I wanted to commit my life to supporting the dignity of others. Bev Julio was a photojournalist in the cause of justice. She herself was a victim of injustice when her life, her passion, which was love of the poor, was snatched away from her at 32 years of age when she died of brain cancer. She says, I know exactly where it happened for me. I was 13 years old. My father was a traveling salesman, and he took me with him on a trip to Rio de Janeiro. And there I was, she said, sitting on a bus, riding through the center of Rio de Janeiro. And on my right, I saw these magnificent hotels, people beautifully dressed, luxury cars. And out of the other side of the bus, I saw these shanties, people poorly dressed. And out of the front window of the bus, I saw on the hill the image of Christ, the Savior, with his arms extended. And I decided, she said, 13 years of age, I decided that I was going to try to be the one bringing these two worlds together. She went around for her short life, trying to bring dignity to others. So where did it happen for you? You know, you say you want to be religious leaders, priests and deacons. Well, are you angry enough? Are you mourning the widening gap between the world as it is and the world that God intends? You know, lots of people could care less, but it cannot be that way with you. You say you want to be religious leaders. Well, have you faced up to the inevitability of your own death? You know, in about 100 years, probably less, not one of us in this room is going to be around. Now, some people faced with the inevitability of their own death start living their lives differently. They stop accumulating and begin spending themselves. They stop seeking honors and try to lift others up. I'm sure it happened somewhere for you. For me, I think one of the most significant moments was when I was in Altar, Mexico. It was the staging area for those seeking a better life going north. There I was standing on the border outside of Altar, where constantly vans kept coming through, one after the other, packed with people. And I remember one of those vans stopping. And the people rolled down the windows. They saw me standing there with my collar. And someone yelled, "Padre, su bendición." And I looked inside that van and saw the faces of people certainly frightened for what they were about to do, many of them clutching an image of Our Lady of Guadalupe. And I gave them a simple blessing. And I thought to myself, what am I doing to try to uphold the dignity of these individuals, striving and seeking a better way of life? Surely it would be better, as Sean said so well, if they had a chance in their own country. But we know today that our world is in desperate need. Hundreds and thousands of people who wonder where they're going to get a bite to eat, who thirst for a sip of safe water, who are striving to find some kind of work that provides them with some sense of dignity, or who are seeking some meager shelter to be able to sustain themselves. It's been my privilege to see the great work of Catholic Relief Services in many places around the world, most recently in Egypt and Bulgaria. In Egypt, they've received thousands of refugees fleeing Sudan, or fleeing Syria, or Afghanistan, or other places living in terribly difficult circumstances. Their CRS is doing an incredible thing, trying to give individual refugees a chance to start their own business. We met with some of them. I call it dreams in a plastic bag. They came to sit with us to tell us what they were doing. One man, a Sudanese, had brought with him in his plastic bag all the things he was selling, old what do they call those things, flip-flops, and bottles of perfume. I had no idea what they were, but in the Sudanese community, these are important. And he has his own business now, trying to help others and to give them some semblance of dignity. Or a couple with their 2 children. She's a seamstress, and he's out trying to promote her beautiful work, giving people a semblance of dignity by having something that they are doing on their own, whether it's pickling vegetables or having a hairdressing opportunity. Incredibly good work. Also in Bulgaria, opportunities for refugees there to have an opportunity to increase their sense of themselves and the gifts and values that they have. There, we heard about a priest, perhaps one of our pastors here. This priest in Bulgaria was listening to Pope Francis's invitation to invite a refugee family to stay with them. And he did that, except there was such an uproar in the community that they had to let the family go elsewhere. The priest was transferred. The forces against the acceptance of refugees and migrants is a very strong voice. And our voice, those who are trying to uphold the dignity of refugees and migrants, as our Holy Father has given us such an example, we have to raise our voice in a more profound way to help our people understand why it is that the church is engaged with refugees and migrants. The Diocese of Tucson, of course, we are right on the border between Mexico and the United States. The diocese covers the whole border between Sonora, Mexicali, and the state of Arizona. And the interest of people to try and find a better way of life is so desperate. I remember a young man from Chiapas. He didn't speak Spanish, he didn't speak English, he only spoke his indigenous language. But he rode the beast north. Why? Because his mother, a single mother with 7 other children, seemingly quite emotionally disturbed, he wanted somehow to help his mom and his brothers and sisters. And he rode the beast north. He jumped off the train and was sucked underneath, and both of his legs were severed. When I visited him in the hospital, he was so distraught because here he was, a young man trying to help his family, now a person of disability who will probably have the hardest time even caring for himself. There are countless stories of people coming across the border from many places, as there are people leaving violence in troubled countries as refugees and asylum seekers. And the church has to be a strong and vocal voice on their behalf, in their defense. And let me say, as you know, we have lots of work to do in helping our own people to understand why it is that the church speaks up on behalf of refugees and migrants. Many people criticize our Holy Father for some of his actions, but it's so important that we not only speak our voice, but show in our actions that we are there along the side of migrants and refugees. Perhaps one of the most moving experiences for me has been the opportunity of celebrating Mass along the border with my brother Bishop Jose Leopoldo Gonzalez. How about that for a name? In the new Diocese of Nogales in Sonora. But to see our people joining together across the border, praying together, sharing meal together, what a profound moment that is, and an important witness for the church. So it's great to be here, to see so many of you who already have opened your eyes to see where love is needed and are responding. I want to thank Tom for reminding you that I've been a priest for over 50 years, and I look it. But I was in one of our second grades recently, and after giving a little spiel, I asked the little ones if they had any questions. This little girl tentatively raised her hand. She looked at me and she said, "How old are you?" And I said, "Well, how old do you think I am?" Without even a moment's hesitation, she said, 103. Well, I've been depressed ever since.